So Nigeria legend, Super Eagles legend, Victor Ikpeba made some comments recently on a podcast. Forgive me, I don't remember the name of the podcast, but I know like I saw it on our good friend OJB's Instagram page. I think it was a Bet Niger podcast. But essentially, he said that he thinks that quality wise and talent in this current crop of Nigerian players, current crop of Super Eagles players, does not compare to the quality that was in his time, in his era. He also did say that he doesn't think that some of the guys in this era can play in his own era. Smilai, when you saw those comments, when you watched that video, what did you think? And do you disagree or agree with Victor Ikpeba?
Mhm. When he says some of these guys, I actually would agree with it. One thing that you cannot take away from generations of the 80s, late 80s, and the early 90s is that we had more talented players back then than now. I know football is evolving. I know that football is more about team sport, tactics, try and like, structure the way you organize your team and low block and everything. Then players can express themselves. They can go past opponent. Football was, you can't be watching football there and be sleeping. But nowadays, when I just watch football, I was watching Arsenal game. I was sleeping because there was
Arsenal
no.
that just won 7-1.
No, not this one. I'm talking about the one against Nottingham Forest. I was just there was nothing in it, and it was just nothing. I was just waiting for them to bring that winning yield.
Mm.
There was nothing in that game. So for me, it was right. And secondly, too, if you look at issue of mentality, for me, I just think that the guys then they had like this more winning mentality compared to the guys who actually what have now. With due respect to them, when you play for a team that you are not expected to win, when you will you have the win? How will you have the winning mentality? Back then, we had players playing for, we know when we want to watch Champions League. Then we were watching Juventus, Olise play,
Which
watching it.
which so for context, which years are we talking about?
We're talking about the 90s.
Mm.
90s. You watch, Inter Milan, you watch Hayas, you watch Champions League, you watch teams that you were playing, Nigerians competing for the league, league titles. But this time around, it's just so different. For me, I tend to actually lean towards Victor Ikpeba's opinion about that. I just think that there's more talented players then than now. And most of the players now, they're just fortunate. I don't want to mention some names. There's some players in the Super Eagles now that would not be in the top 80 in the 90s. Some players can play in this era and they can play in the last era. But there's some players now that are fortunate to be in this generation.
Mm.
But because it's just unfair to compare the eras to, but for me, based on what I saw in 1990, 1990s and this generation, come on, the generations actually what are these very,
Mm.
very talented squad of players.
I would say this. I was born in the later half of the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So I cannot comment too much on this because I wasn't watching football back then. I was
Mm-hmm.
in my mother's belly. In fact, I was
Mm-hmm.
first in heaven before I entered her belly. So I wasn't watching football back then. But what I will say is that this comparison of eras,
Mm-hmm.
we see it in every sport.
Mm-hmm.
In basketball, they will tell you that, oh, hey, in the days of Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, he was better than these days with LeBron and Steph Curry and all these people.
Mm-hmm.
In the NFL, they say the same thing. In any sport, they always tell you that, oh, back in the day of Mike Tyson, everything is better than the boxing of today. So it's so hard, nearly impossible to compare eras. And everybody always thinks that their era was better than the one that came after. Old
Yeah.
heads always think that, oh, yeah, the sport is getting worse, their era was better, etc. So I'm not going to agree, but I'm also not going to disagree with Victor Ekpeba. I
Mm-hmm.
just think that a lot of people can or tend to become nostalgia merchants when it comes to these conversations. And then they
Mm-hmm.
start thinking of, wow, I remember those days, we're doing this, we're winning this. Oh, that means these people cannot survive in that world. But
Mm-hmm.
the truth is that probably they can,
Mm-hmm.
and of course there will be some that can't naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Football has definitely changed. When we talk about more talented, the
Mm-hmm.
reality of it is that because of how regimented football has become, talent is a prerequisite. Everybody's talented,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not all about talent anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody that is able to read the game better, able to play fundamentals better, you can have a longer career than somebody that has way more talent than you,
Mm-hmm.
because talent is only a subsection of what's necessary now. It's
Mm-hmm.
like when we talk about somebody like even a JJ Okocha sometimes, it's hard to see a player like that thrive in today's world because of the way football has changed. Like, why are you
Yeah.
using 20 seconds on the ball? Like, Nick, hey, I almost said the N word. But like, bro, like, pass the ball. Why are you wasting time on the ball? Things like that. We see a player like Haaland that doesn't have that many natural skills,
Mm-hmm.
but he knows where to be. He knows how to read the game. He has his strength, and he can find the back of the net. And he's one of the
Mm-hmm.
best players in the world. So
Mm-hmm.
when they compare talent, I say okay, fine. But for me, I think it's an evolution of the game. If many of these players were born back in the day, then they would have been playing the way you were playing then.
Mm-hmm.
But they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
It's the
Yeah.
same way if Ikpeba was born in the year 2000,
Mm-hmm.
he'll probably be playing different from how he was playing when he was born.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because of the time. You cannot choose when you're born. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I think people tend to be nostalgia merchants a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
the old heads always believe that their era was better than the new era. Whatever sport it is, the old heads always say that.
Mm-hmm.
But football is still a beautiful game. As the game is evolving, we're continuing to enjoy it. Me, I cannot agree, but I also cannot disagree because I'm young and I did not watch football back in the 90s. I
Yeah.
started watching football in the 2000s when I became old enough to know what was going on. I've gone
Yeah.
back and I've watched some old games, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not the same like when you're watching it live. And how many old games am I watching? It's different from now that I watch 10 matches every week type of thing. It's very different. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll allow Victor Ikpeba. He's a legend. I'll allow him to hold his opinion. Yeah, you wanted
Yeah.
something?
I think I think part of what he was trying to also say basically is that the way our current generation of players, in the Super Eagles play for Nigeria. That's another thing I want to say that if they can be playing this way for Nigeria, they cannot get into their era, squad because and you have to apart from talent,
Well,
not talk about commitment too,
Well, see, Smith, like the thing is, like I understand when people say that, but let's also realize that things were different back then. Like
Yeah,
Ikpeba is talking now. If Ikpeba was making 200K a week, we don't know how committed he would have been. We don't know how hard he would have killed himself. Like, let's just be realistic with ourselves.
yeah.
It's
So
different.
yeah,
See, you can be the most hardworking man in the world. Once you make $2 million, you're like, why am I killing myself every day? Why am I stressing? Why am I waking up? Why am I eating all this food that I don't like? Why am I going to the gym 5 times a week? Like, we don't know. So it's easy for them to look at it now and say, oh, well, we're more committed, we were hardworking, we're this, we're that. Times have changed. Times have changed. So for me, I look at it and say, well, if that's how you feel because that's your era, I can't fault you for it. Always back yourself. But when I look at things like commitment, it's different, man. It's different when you are playing and you're fighting for your career every day versus a lot of these guys. Like, the truth is, like, they can easily, I mean, I hope they don't say it, but like they can say to hell with Super Eagles, how much is Super Eagles paying me? How much am I making from Super Eagles? How is Super Eagles helping me? Somebody like Osimhen now, for example, he has that natural inbuilt passion. But if
mm-hmm,
Osimhen does not play another day for Nigeria in his life, he's fine.
mm-hmm,
He's fine. Like,
mm-hmm,
nothing
yeah,
other than maybe his personal goal of maybe playing at the World Cup and things like that. But he's fine. He'll make his money from his club career. He'll take care of his family till he dies. He'll leave
mm-hmm.
money for his children. So for me, times are different. Honestly,
Yeah,
times are
yeah.
different.
Sometimes too, I know that it's hard to compare the generations then back there now. You're rightly just said that, for example, now one of the Nigerian players was making 45K a week. Then he was one of the very good earners, like one of the highest earners then back then. So it was a big boy, But when you say 45K a week now, how much is it? So but if you want to compare again to some other countries, the way they play for their country, it's not only about Nigeria. Some people now, how much does Gabon, for example, pay their? I know that some of them are not big players. So how much they pay their
Most of
players?
them are not big players. Most of them, Gabon is what is keeping them on the map.
Okay. So for example, now Brazil, Argentina.
But
When I'm
again, so okay, no, I get what you're trying to say. But again, that's where Nigeria lacks. Because in Nigeria, the truth is that we don't have that national pride. We don't. You know, we don't, as much as we say we love football in Nigeria, we are big supporters of football. We don't compare to some of these countries that are calling
Mm-hmm.
football in Nigeria. Like a lot of Nigerian football fans, like we know this, they would rather watch Chelsea, Arsenal than watch Super Eagles. They would rather, like, even you see Nigerians saying that, why is the AFCON in the middle of the year? We have to watch our club, so it's distracting us. So that's why we don't pay attention. I only watch it when it comes to the final or the semi-final. Things like that. So that
Mm-hmm.
national pride, that love for the national team is not there like that. In Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
if you play for Brazil, you are a superstar in the country.
Mm-hmm.
It's not some girl that went to go and buy Lambo that is going to be hogging the headlines. You are the superstar. You are the one that everybody is
New
looking.
Lambo the mileage is already 45,000.
It's like it's different. The way they revere these people in their countries is different. Look at, I know that Diego Maradona was one of the greatest ever. Some
Mm-hmm.
people think he's the greatest ever. But
Mm-hmm.
look at who is Nigeria's greatest ever.
For me, I think it was Swahili.
Okay, so how many people honor Yakini today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can walk the streets of Nigeria and
Mm-hmm.
ask people. Some people don't know who Yakini is.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've never heard that name before. And
Mm-hmm.
some of them watch football. Oh. They watch Arsenal, they watch Chelsea, they watch Man U, but they've
Mm-hmm.
never heard that name before.
Mm-hmm.
We don't build our football up like that. We don't honor our legends like that. We don't remember them. How many statues are there? Statues of Yekini in Nigeria,
Maybe in Ibadan, you know.
in his hometown,
Mm-hmm.
when he should be in front of the NFF office itself
Mm-hmm.
or in the national stadium?
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. So it's like the level of adoration, the level of pride around it is so different. So again, it's easy for me. I look at it that if I were there, of course I'll be fully committed. Of course, I want everybody to be fully committed. Of
Mm-hmm.
course. But I look at it that compared to back then versus now, things were very different. People cared more back then than they care now. Money was less then than it is now. So there's many different factors. A player will look at it that I'm collecting this amount of money in my club. I'm collecting every week match bonus. I'm collecting goal bonus. I'm collecting everything. If I come
Mm-hmm.
and injure now with the national team, I miss 3 months. They already calculated in their head. All my match bonus I'm not going to collect. All my goal bonus I'm not going to collect. Maybe they're going to miss out on like 100K because they cannot play for 3 months. But
Mm-hmm.
no, but Nigeria, nobody's even going to care about them. Because you can't treat yourself. Things like that. That's why they might not want to. Look at the time of Manuel Dennis when he rather stayed with his club than go and play for Nigeria. Because probably looked at it that I'm trying to establish myself. The same thing happened in Ghana. Was the Abdul Fattah, the
What's that?
Leicester City guy, that said he
Yeah.
would rather stay and secure his place in his squad than go and play for his national team because he's looking at his future and he's thinking like, if I play for my national team, well, okay, maybe some people in my country will be happy, but how does that help me in the long run? Whereas then the positives, the benefits of playing for your national team were much much higher then for these players. But
Mm-hmm.
for a player, I mean, if it's an MPFL player that comes into the national team now, for them, they have to be committed because it's an opportunity for them. It is a huge deal for them. But again, like someone like Victor Osimhen, someone like Ademola Lookman, if not for personal national pride, Osimhen doesn't need the Super Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't. Lookman doesn't need the Super Eagles. The name that people will be thinking of, Victor Boniface. The reality of it is that he doesn't need the Super Eagles. The
Mm-hmm.
Super Eagles will add to his career. Don't get me wrong. It will help him increase his profile a little bit more if you can score goals for the national team, playing all these top tournaments. But in terms of his future, in terms of his family, in terms of his life, it doesn't benefit anything from the Super Eagles like that. How much they give him for match bonus is like maybe what he gets for being on the bench in Leverkusen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's something that you just do for pride.
Yes, but no be everybody care.
And I know, but that is one of the things that if you don't care, don't come to national team.
But that's not that nobody's going to say that. No.
No, no, no. That is it. So
No,
if
no.
he's
See, what's me like? See, the thing is, when I say they don't care, it's not like they don't care at all. They
mm-hmm,
just don't care that much. They
mm-hmm,
don't care enough to go and wound. They
mm-hmm,
want to be there. They want to play. They want to wear the jersey. They want to represent the country. But if it's going to risk their future earnings, they're not going to gamble that gamble. If it's going to risk injury, they don't want to gamble that gamble. But they want to be there. They want to play. They want to give their best.
mm-hmm,
But there's certain things that they just would not go that extra mile. It's like
mm-hmm.
we all want to make money, we want to be rich, but there's
Yeah.
some things that they will tell you to come and do that you say, no, I can't do this for money. As
Mm-hmm,
much as I want the money, I can't do this. It's the way
mm-hmm,
they want to be superstars, they want to be stars in Nigeria, but as
mm-hmm,
much as they want that, there's certain things that they wouldn't do. That's why you see a player, you're like, say, tackle, tackle, but he don't look that grass. He knows say if he tackle like this, his own knee, the skin on his knee will just come out like this. Ah,
Mhm.
he will not risk that tackle. He will not risk that. And then us that are watching will be saying, hey, why is he not playing hard? He's not this thing. Him is thinking about his future. Maybe he don't get two knee injuries before. You know, if I collect another knee injury now, then go just abandon me for 4 months.
Well, for me, I understand that point very well. But what I've just said basically is this: if you cannot come and give your best, but because let me tell you something, giving best is relative. Some people will working on the pitch and say, "I cannot go." Why you are working on the pitch? You say it's with a big belly. Go and stay in your club. What would be working on the pitch with a big belly? Stay in your club. Don't come.
Mm.
We come into national team to sell clothes. Stay in your club. Don't come.
Now,
I
so
think
like now one player away, they take all this, they fire all these shots, go on play aside.
I'm just saying it. This national team, let me tell you something. I fell in love with football because of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. And sometimes when I see the whole thing, don't they go down like this. Like any, I don't want to do the D word there. Everybody just stroll into camp, do whatever they like. That's
Mm,
why sometimes, if na home base, they play with their passion and everything, let them just be home base.
mm,
And let us go and be struggling to qualify for AFCON. I mean, because if it's home base now, we go struggle to qualify for AFCON. Or players in Lithuania,
mm,
Egypt, if they can give 100%, that is it. Because
mm,
sometimes I look at all these national teams too. I see the way the Senegalese play for their country. I see the way the Malians play for their country. I
mm,
see all those things too. So if any player is not ready, it should not come. A Super Eagle captain went to the press conference to say that because we are Nigeria, we should not be winning any games. I just think, say, why did they burn him? Where did they? Because at the end of the day, these guys don't even know the history. We are Nigeria. But I understand the point you are trying to make about when a country loves you, you love the country back. But the issue is this. That's why I said it. Well, when we go to the list, we'll talk about it more.
Okay, let me just quickly take comments. So Monaco Matt says, Ayo, please, none of these present Super Eagles can enter that 94 squad. Okay. Real K says, even though Sime cannot bench Yekini, neither could Boniface bench Akpobore. Okay. Logistics Jeff says, if this generation does not make it to the World Cup next year, then I'll have to agree with Ikpeba. Until then, it is too early to compare. Odubayo Mobolaji says the 94 set needs to calm down. They're actually saying the right things, but they say it at the wrong time. And at
Hmm.
times, it makes it look as if they are attacking the current generation.
Yeah.
Okay. The same logistics Jeff from before says there is a world where we qualify for the World Cup next year and make the final. Then what are we going to be comparing if that happens? Logistics Jeff, I think you are living in the multiverse. I'm sorry. There is no world where we get to the World Cup final. As patriotic as I am, as much as I love the Super Eagles, I cannot, if there's that world, I cannot see that world where we will get to the final of the World Cup, not in the current state of Nigerian football. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. Um, okay, let me see.
Oh, it will end up if it happens.
I'll give 1 million giveaway.
Okay, guys, record it.
No, I promise. See, if the Super Eagles get to the final
Not
of the
$1
FIFA Men's World Cup, not be on a 17 World Cup, but not be on a 20 World Cup.
Is it
The
dollars or euros?
$1 million. Wow. If the Super Eagles get to the final of the FIFA Men's World Cup in 2026, in
Hmm.
fact, I would do 2 million naira giveaway.
Guys, record it. See, that doesn't forget. Oh,
I'm not. I don't want them to forget. In fact, 2.5 million giveaway naira.
ah, that is it. So okay, naira,
See,
you put naira there.
it's naira now. Maybe not. Maybe person knows here. I know call currency.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
but Bright is saying all these old players should leave our players, and most of them now bad belly. They worry them. Football is way more competitive than it was in the 90s. Okay, Humble Henry says they don't care. That is the reason why they don't play with passion 100%. Logistics Jeff says national duty should not be an avenue to make money. That's why your club pays you. Once again, nobody said they're coming to the national team to make money because how much does the national team give them? They still owe them lots. So it's not about making money. I'm just talking about the general benefits that you get for playing for your national team versus the potential risk. It's not nobody's coming to the national team to make money. In fact, the people that are coming to the national team to make money are the MPFL players. not
Mhm.
the senior players that are already playing in Europe. Okay.
Mhm.
Iyari Made says, IoT, my guy, few years ago, a lot of these players you mentioned could not do with the Super Eagles. Someone like Trist Ekong would not have the career he had without Super Eagles. I dare say Osimhen too. Once again, I like this comment because I agree with it for the most part. They need the national team. Don't get me wrong. But in this life, I've learned it and I've learned it the hard way. When somebody needs you, they are the ones that will be calling you every day. They are the
Mhm.
ones that will be disturbing you. They will do everything
Mhm.
after they get what they want. If they answer your call again, you thank God. That's the reality. I'll give you a personal story. There's a Nigerian footballer. I'm not going to name names. People might, if you're smart enough, you might know who I'm talking about. But this guy used to disturb me to promote him on Eagles Tracker,
Mhm.
to post him. He asked me to do PR for him, to just publicize him. He wants to get into the national team. I should publicize him. I told him this is my fee for any promotion that I'm doing. He begged me to reduce that price. He begged me that he can only pay like 40% of my fee. I agreed. I said, you know what, fine, I'll do it for you. This guy got one national team call up. One national team call up. Never answered my messages again.
Mm-mm.
I'm telling you. Till today, we don't talk anymore.
Did you pay for the year?
He played. He got called up to the national team. He got what he wanted, and he stopped replying my messages.
I know the player.
So
Continue.
I'm telling you, like, see, when somebody wants something from you,
Mhm.
what when you're starting your career, you want to play for the national team so that you can boost your profile, your transfer fee can go up. Once you get that, what else is there now? That's why certain players will say, "Oh, I need to go and visit my family. I need to." Those players that want to visit their family when they were younger, you think they will tell their family to wait, say that they have match to go and play. So it's just the reality of people. Even with like stuff that we do for charity with my platform, with like players that I work with, we help. Like recently, we helped pay school fees for like 40 people.
Mhm.
After paying the school fees, to get some of them to say thank you, they're not replying
Eh?
messages again. Somebody paid your school fees. When it was time to pay your school fees, you were disturbing him. Now they've paid the school fees. Some of them not even they reply message again.
Mhm.
So it's life, man. When people want something from you, they are there. When they get what they want, they move on. XXX says, IoT, what if they go all the way and leave the World Cup? 10 million giveaway. If they leave the World Cup, 5 million naira giveaway. If Nigeria should leave the if Nigeria should leave the World Cup, I feel just give away my house, sef.
Mhm.
You know the joy that see if Nigeria somehow win the World Cup, the joy will go enter my body that day. There's nothing I will not give away.